But the problem is, in some countries, we have an electorate that is very conscious of what they're electing. And this is not proportional to the amount of education that exists there. If we look at Nigeria, where we have high level of education among the population, that's where we have permanent problems. The Nigerian security apparatus cannot even, maintain the safety of kids in schools. And what does this tell you? You have the elite at the top that are concerned only about their own benefits. And the story you have down there is not of concern, of great concern to them. In fact, they are asking foreign governments to help them with this brackets of what they call terrorists and people who are asking for a ransom, by kidnapping kids. This is unheard of story in Africa, and it's news. But foreign interests plus elite interests locally. Look at Somalia now. When we've said that it's going to be stable, now we have another problem coming, a fight between the elites, which would again put the country into a collapsed state status unless something is done very, very soon by this elite. And therefore, it's very difficult to predict this. Countries like South Africa are wealthy countries with tremendous amount of mineral resources and huge production capacity. And yet, the African population there is complaining about their livelihoods, about the land they never had, or that's been taken away from them and that they want to reclaim. So these are issues at the bigger picture that we see beyond having a participatory governance in African regimes. There is progress. We cannot deny this. But that progress is coming very, very slowly from civil society and not from the governments themselves. So when you have these elections coming in a repeated manner, then I'm hoping that the young people, especially after the last 20 years when the education process has been expanding, the internet services have been expanding, people are now more aware of their rights, people are more aware of the international situation, and of course, the kind of trade wars that are emerging now between the East and the West, which is literally turning into a new Cold War, would make them aware what kind of governments they need to be able to stay afloat in the world economy, in a globalized world economy. So these startups that are coming up in Africa now are going to be the solution for this. These are the guys who are going to create entrepreneurs. People are going to emulate them. Kids have now a vision of what they can be looking at their elders who are doing this. So far, in most of Africa, government job was some kind of an elite job that everybody wanted. If you're not paid well, you can steal money from the government or from the people that you administer. But the point now is people are becoming entrepreneurs thanks to the expansion of the internet, thanks to the expansion of telecom services. So my hope is that it wouldn't take a long time that has taken Africa since independence to have democratic states installed. It will be much, much faster. There will be opposition to this. There will be resistance from the powers to be, but definitely these young people are going to transform society once we know that they have access to different facilities. What are African governments doing now during elections? They shut down social media. They shut down international television stations. They shut down newspapers. They shut down the media completely. So there is no way information can be shared between the people, and also information that comes from the huge African diaspora that's highly enlightened. Imagine we have an African diaspora that can sell its skills to the economies in the West. We don't have that equal number of people within Africa itself that can sell their skills to the African economy. And therefore, the diaspora is going to be a huge change agent. Of course, in some cases, they can be more negative, creating discord among different ethnic groups and populations. They can be the mouthpiece of incumbent regimes in Africa. But definitely the majority of information that's coming through the internet can be filtered out by the people who are receiving it to be able to use it to the best of the development of good governance in Africa.
All right. Yeah. That is a hope, and I believe so much. Of course, the power, the future belongs to the younger generation, and if we are looking at the African diaspora, that is where also the power is. So they must live up to their responsibility in taking up the fight to change the situation, because it is not good. It is not good the way it is. It is not favorable to those we left at home, because no matter how comfortable you might be, even though really there is not so much comfort in the diaspora, as it were, that is a semblance of it. If where you are coming from, there is fire there, even if you are living in the comfort, you will not be enjoying it. All right. Another thing I also would like to understand from this discussion is the consequences. Because if you make law and there are no consequences for the law, then those laws can easily be broken and nothing will happen. We started from the legal empowerment of the poor, no? How the poor can have access to justice. What if these poor do not have access to justice? Who are they going to cry out to? How can somebody intervene in their case? Say maybe, for example, the government decide to take the land that belongs to the people, and these people are driven away without any compensation, or for a variety of other things that the government decide to violate the right of the people. And these people, of course, they cannot fight the government. What can they do?
The best thing is to talk about what they're doing now. Most guerrilla movements in Africa, most liberation movements or whatever, it's not liberation, some kind of self-empowerment and self-determination comes as a result of this. You have activists who talk about it. They start recruiting people. It's very easy to buy arms in this world today, or it's very easy even to get access to them. There are sufficient benefactors who are ready to give you guns and bullets to destroy your own country around the world today. And therefore, that's why you see all these fights in Africa, because the legal regimes are not working, because the governance regimes are not properly working. When there was a hope that some tyrant is gone, like Mobutu Seko, then the country hasn't changed much. In reality, DRC is still as obscure as it was under Mobutu Seko. And therefore, it's very important to look into how civil society reacts to this. Much of the conflicts that we see going on in Africa between communities is, of course, traditionally you had communities who were undertaking cattle rustling, who were fighting for water points, for grazing areas and stuff like this. But now what you see is organized military level, martial level, equipped guerrillas who are fighting their own governments. So what's the response of these governments? It's not negotiations. It's not talking and trying to find alternative conflict management systems, which have been the mainstay of the African life even before organized governments, donors, and NGOs came to the scene. The point is, they started buying weapons to fight their own guerrillas. Eventually, they destroy the economy of the country. They destroy society completely. The social fabric in many African countries has been completely dismantled because of these conflicts. We have millions of people who have been displaced because of conflicts. In almost 20 countries, there have been active fighting that has created the displacement of millions of Africans. At one time, we had the highest number of refugees. And of course, now we have Pakistan and Afghanistan with a huge number of refugees. But the point is, we go into this kind of conflicts, and governments rarely understand the situation that these conflicts could go out of hand and they could result in their replacement. Most of the governments that have been overthrown in Africa, like Mobutu Sese Seko, DRC is a good example. has been, you had guerrilla movements going on for a long period of time. In fact, at one time, SADC had to put up a huge SADC force to be able to protect the integrity of the nation per se, so that it doesn't fracture into small phantom states, you know.